The latest Universes Beyond comes to us with 4 Doctor Who themed commander decks. While I'm not an active fan of the show, I did watch it a lot in high school during the peak of the 9th and 10th and 11th Doctors. So I kinda have a pretty big soft spot for the series, specifically the Timey Wimey deck. And the flavor and reference of the deck are really good. And what else is really good is this channel, so it'd be a good idea to click on that subscribe button below the video. And while you're down there, leave this video a like and a comment on what your favorite card from the set is, and if you're interested in seeing me cover other decks as well, do let me know. Anyways, obligatory plug out of the way, let's get to the actual video. For this video, I won't be going over every single character in great detail, pretty much the ones who just explain the references to them and such, and some of them are kinda self-explanatory too, like Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, which is a reference to the episode Dinosaurs on a Spaceships, where the Doctor and his companions deal with dinosaurs on a spaceship. Anyways, a more interesting one is Rose Tyler, the face companion for the deck. Her ability Bad Wolf is a reference to herself, the entity Bad Wolf that possesses her during the finale of the 9th Doctor's last episodes. And the reason she interacts with time counters is in the show, she was able to leave the message Bad Wolf across time, which appears all throughout the 9th Doctor's run. The 10th Doctor, the other face commander, is also pretty simple. Alan Z and Timey Wimey are both just catchphrases he says, with Alan Z meaning let's go in French, and Timey Wimey being a thing he says when talking about time travel stuff. Astrid Perth is a one-off character who dies in the episode she debuts in, which is basically Space Titanic. She was a drink server, hence why she makes food tokens, and she explores in her other ability since her dream was to explore the galaxy. Flesh Duplicate is pretty simple, though from the episode Rebel Flesh, where duplicates of employees are made copies of in order to work in dangerous mining facilities. Rory Williams partners with Amy Pond because they're husband and wife. And the Last Centurion refers to a copy of Rory who was made out of Amy's memory. Because technically the original Rory died as his memories of him got erased. I'm just gonna stop right there, it's way too complicated to get into for this video. And speaking of Rory, Amy Pond has honestly not a lot of flavor. There's the effect, I couldn't really make out anything distinguishing. The closest thing is just the fact she has partnered with her husband. Time Beetle is a way simpler card to explain, has the Parallel Universe ability, refers to its ability to alter a moment in someone's life. And for important people, it could alter entire courses of reality, seen when one attached to Donna Noble and Turn Left, which Donna will get into in a little bit. Idris is a woman who the soul of the TARDIS inhabited, which the TARDIS is the Doctor's ship, the big old phone booth if you don't know that already. However, her body was too weak to contain it and has a short lifespan, hence why she has vanishing because he doesn't stick around for too long. Martha's Jones's card is namely to reference in her acts in the Last of the Time Lords episode, where she quite literally walked around the Earth to tell about the Doctor and his acts of justice and heroism, which is why she's depicted talking to a group in her art. Sibling Soothsayer shows a cult of, you guessed it, soothsayers named, you guessed it, Seablind Sisterhood, who breathe in dust from the Pompeii volcano to enhance their psychic powers, which is, I guess, why they also give things suspense, because they see into the future. The 11th Doctor doesn't have much, but the name of his ability is a reference to his speech from the episode The Pandorica Opens, where he shouts at a group of aliens, basically about how they ain't shit and he'd beat their ass. The 9th Doctor is the Doctor with the least references, the flavor text is just his catchphrase, and he has haste since his first appearance is about him running around. Can't speak for the extra untap effect though. Adios Offspring is a species of aliens who just kinda cute little fellas. They are created out of organisms' body mass, and is done in the show by a woman giving pills disguised as weight loss pills, and if too many of the pills were taken, a person would be completely converted into Apodose. Which is why the Emerge ability cares about toughness, or the butts of a creature if you do pay the merge cost. Donna Noble doesn't really have much. Soulbound is basically because she connects with the Doctor's mind and she has memories erased. It's a whole thing. She pretty much connects with the Doctor, that's basically the gist of it. Jenny is the Doctor's daughter, who leaves during her episode to explore the galaxy, which is why she has Explorer. That's about it. Kate Stewart is the scientific officer of UNIT, which is basically like a big old CIA, FBI kind of thing. Her flavor is honestly, I don't know. Someone on Reddit said it's because the more time shenanigans happen, the more funding she gets to make UNIT stronger, which, sure, I see that, I guess. Sally Sparrow is an urban explorer, which is why she's built around investigating. That's about it. There's a weeping angel chilling in the background since her only appearance is in Blink, which is also a fantastic episode of the show. Anyways, Face of Bo, honestly, this is one that's just kind of a character. There's not really much flavor to go off of here, I couldn't really distinguish anything, it's just a character. And the last Doctor for the pre-con, the War Doctor. His flavor comes from the fact he was the one who phased his home of Gallifrey out of existence basically, to end the Time War so they wouldn't die. He basically does what the fairy does to Zolfir to give a magic world example. Wolfen Mott, aside from being a fantastic character, has a curious mind and likes stargazing and seeing what's out there, and is Donna's grandpa. This card doesn't have amazing flavor. Atraxi Warden depicts an Atraxi, who is an alien police force, which I guess is Wyatt Exile or something. There's not much lore for this one, it just kinda wants to capture a prisoner. Judon Enforcers, honestly, I don't get the flavor here. They're just another police force, and honestly, that's about it. This one I didn't really get, because there's just nothing really there, they're just kind of a species from the show. And the last creature is Star Whale, which is mostly just a creature from the show, and it gives everything ward because the Star Whale helps ships that are in distress. Clock Spinning shows the fob watch that the Doctor stores his memories in when he went to hiding as a human named John Smith. Everybody Lives is a reference to the end of the episode The Doctor Dances, so he managed to save everyone affected with everything that was happening in that episode without anyone dying, which is actually something that very rarely happens in Doctor Who, and plays into why it prevents anyone from winning or losing the game, because everyone gets to stay in the game. One for Your Life refers to the Ninth Doctor's first appearance, where he helps Rose escape from mannequin people and tells her to run for her life, because he's about to blow the base of operations up. Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey is just something the 10th Doctor says, and the flavor text was his most well-known quote using it from the episode Blink. Ecstatic Beauty is a reference to the episode Vincent and the Doctor, where the Doctor takes Vincent van Gogh into the future so he can see the people of the future admiring his art, which was hated during his time. The writing of River Song, I will give you exactly one guess at what's going on here. It's the Doctor being married to River Song. All of History All at Once shows a scene from the writing of River Song, where a fixed point of time was altered, which basically that means an event that was supposed to happen needs to happen, so when it didn't happen, it caused things from all over history to suddenly appear in the present day, including the dinosaurs as seen on the card art. Nanogene Conversion is a reference to the Empty Child, where a plague-like affliction transforms people's faces into gas masks, and the only thing they can say is, "Are you my mummy?" Though as seen in the Everybody Lives card, the Doctor does manage to reverse this. Fractured Identity shows Clara Oswald entering the Doctor's timeline, which caused her to be scattered all throughout time to help the Doctor. She basically becomes a bunch of different versions of herself, all with the goal of saving the Doctor. Coward and Killer comes from a line where a Dalek asks the Doctor if he is a coward and will leave the Daleks to live, or if he's a killer and kills all the ones that are in the room. Farewell depicts the 10th Doctor's regeneration, with the flavor text being his last words before he turned into the 11th Doctor. Inspiring Refrain shows a movement where the Ood were freed from their slavery and allowed to sing for the first time in years, not really much outside of that. Gallifrey Falls No More is a reference to a painting that was known as Gallifrey Falls, but after the events of the 50th anniversary special, the name of the painting is revealed to be Gallifrey Falls No More, as during that special they saved Gallifrey from being destroyed in the Time War. Everything Comes to Dust shows a moment where Rose Tyler absorbs the entity of Bad Wolf and uses that to disintegrate a fleet of Daleks to save the Doctor, as seen in the card art. The Shoulder of the deck shows the Eye of Harmony, which, as the flavor text shows, is basically how Time Lords are able to time travel. Arcane Signet just kind of tells you what it is in the flavor text. Lightning Greaves is, I believe, showing the 11th Doctor running after Clara steps into this time stream I mentioned during Fractured Identity, and I guess that's it. I don't remember exactly why his shoes look like that, but that's what it is. Mindstone shows Handles, which is a Cyberman that assisted the Doctor and could be plugged into the TARDIS to help control it. Despite Cyberman being an evil robot faction, this one was stripped of its original programming, which is why it's an assistant to the Doctor. Psychic Paper is basically an identification card that changes what it says based on whatever the Doctor needs at any given time. Though it appears blank to us, when the Doctor flashes it, it shows whatever he wants it to say, hence why it lets you make a creature of any name and type. TARDIS is the TARDIS. That's about it. Talisman of Conviction shows the 11th Doctor's bow tie, which is an iconic piece of accessory of his costume, with the 3D glasses on Talisman of Creativity being a thing that the 10th Doctor also wears. The Moment is a device that the War Doctor uses to genocide the Daleks and the Time Lords to end the Time War, which is why it has a board wipe effect, but the 10th and 11th Doctors work with him to help phase Gallifrey out of existence so the weapon wouldn't affect the Time Lords, hence why it has the ability to phase things out before you actually use it. Thought Vessel is quite literally a thought vessel, as the Doctor stores all his memories in his watch that I talked about in Clock Spinning. The rotating fireplace is a fireplace featured in the episode The Girl in the Fireplace, which has the fireplace being both sides that you can cross through, and they are at different points in time. The sonic screwdriver is a utility device that does a bunch of stuff, and is one of the Doctor's most iconic utility tools, which is also why it does a bunch of stuff here. The Pandorica is essentially a prison where there is simply a chair inside, hence why it phases out of permanent until it leaves the battlefield. It is rather easy to open from the outside, which is why you can release whatever is locked away with rather easily in the terms of magic. RMS Titanic is the space Titanic I mentioned when I talked about Astrid, and it makes treasure tokens when it dies, as one of the captains was bribed to make sure the ship was destroyed. Wedding Ring is simply that. a wedding ring that Rory had given to Amy Pond that helped to remember him after the original was erased from her memory. Regenerations Restored is showing the moment in which the 12th Doctor is given more regenerations as a thank you from the Time Lords, as Time Lords only normally have 12 regenerations and the 12th Doctor was on his last one. As foretold shows off the moment where the 10th Doctor is told that when he hears 4 knocks, he will die. Which brings us to our next code, 4 knocks, which shows how the 10th Doctor saved Wilfred from being encased in toxic fumes and trades places with him, the as foretold part coming to fruition when Wilfred knocks 4 times, much to the Doctor's dismay, showing that by doing this he will kill himself. Grasp of Fate shows a moment where Rose was forced into another universe in order to save her life. The Doctor manages to project himself into the world to say goodbye, and it vanishes before he has a chance to profess his love to her, hence why the flavor text cuts off like that. Out of Time shows the moment where all 13 Doctors at the time show up to help save Gallifrey from being destroyed by the moment, which is why it phases all those creatures out when it enters the battlefield. The sagas are all references to iconic episodes, with the parting of ways being 9, the girl in the fireplace being 10s, and the 11th hours being 11, and Day of the Doctor being the War Doctors. Crack in Time refers to, you guessed it, cracks in time that would erase things from their time stream, and what absorbed worry that causes eraser until the cracks are all sealed, which is why it has vanishing and returns them once it leaves the field. Getting close to the end, we just have lands now. Command Tower is just the inside of the TARDIS's main control center, basically the cockpit of it. Deserted Beach shows a scene where the Doctor sees an astronaut arise out from you guessed it, a deserted beach, where he zaps him killing the Doctor. Though this doesn't actually wind up killing him, but that's a whole other thing. The Evolving Wilds artwork shows a moment from the episode The Stolen Earth, where 27 planets, including Earth, are stolen out of their moment in time and space, with the quote being from a moment the Doctor is looking at them aboard a Judon-controlled vessel. Exotic Orchard shows a piece of the TARDIS that, as the flavor text shows, is able to reconstruct particles to match whatever is needed at any given time, hence why it's on Exotic Orchard, a card that can make different mana based on what you need. Fiery Islet is from the 13th Doctor's run, and I'll admit I only watched the first season of 12s and nothing beyond that, so you kinda have to fully rely on the wiki for this one. Basically, the Centaurians are a military group of clones and had a base of operations in Chile, and there was a plan to drive a ship into it and cause what's happening in the flavor text, with Cavanista being this dog dude from the 12th and 13th Doctor precon. Frostboil Snar shows the River Thames, a river that had been frozen over with the Frost Fair being basically a celebration carnival, the ice strong enough to support even elephants. 1814 was the last one because the freezing was caused by a serpent creature underneath the water that the Doctor saved. Furrycom Snarl shows the bunker where the War Doctor made his base of operations and where he would make use of the moment. With the flavor text coming in the message he gave the Time Lords and Daleks that he was going to end the war and they would be fighting no more because, well, he genocides them. Well, that gets changed thanks to the intervention of the 10th and 11th Doctors during the events of the movie, the 50th anniversary special Day of the Doctor. Glacial Fortress is fairly self-explanatory from the flavor text. Iceworld is a training colony, but it turned out to actually be a spacecraft. Irrigated Farmland shows a colony on Mars in a biodome. The infection is referring to those who drank the water, which would infect them and make them constantly vomit out water and make their faces all stone-like, with Andy and Tarak being both members of the team of the colony who were infected by the water, of which only requires just a drop to infect the host. The basic lands, I'm not positive on all of them. The island, I believe, is the TARDIS on Bad Wolf Bay, where Rose Tyler was forced into in another universe. The mountain is Peloton, which is a planet the Doctor regarded as a favorite that the 3rd Doctor visited, and the planets look to be Androzany, which is a mining planet with toxic substances, which was the last place the 5th Doctor visited, which led to his regeneration. Port Town is Venice, where the 11th Doctor took Amy and Rory and able to make sure the love stayed intact after Amy tried to kiss the Doctor. There's also a plague like vampire-like stuff, but that's a whole plot summary and that's beside the point of this video. Myriad Landscape shows the eruption of the Pompeii volcano, which is a major plot of the episode The Fires of Pompeii. For Mystic Monastery, the abbot is basically a religious figure who in the show looked exactly like the 1st Doctor, and the building is a monastery itself. Ominous Cemetery shows a weeping angel, which appear to be like cemetery statues and only move when you're not looking at them. The angels live by sending people back in time to feed off the life they would have experienced in the present, hence why it causes creatures to be shuffled back into the library, is as if they're being sent back in time. Path of Ancestry shows different incarnations of the TARDIS itself. The cylinder in the back is what it actually looks like before it got stuck as a blue police box, with the modern era TARDIS at the front and the classic one behind it. Prairie Stream is fairly obvious to its flavor text. It's New York but in the future, but there's a lot of New Yorks to expand out of New York. Rogue's Passage is the inside of the TARDIS outside of the main control room. It's basically all over the place, and the flavor text is a reference to a problem deep within it in the episode Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. Sky Cloud Expanse shows a staircase that leads above the clouds where the TARDIS is resting, where the Doctor is running up with Clara when they first meet to escape some kind of ice girl woman. Storm-Carved Coast shows a moment where a solar tsunami causes the TARDIS to crash land on a planet caused by radiation from it that formed from old acid, since the building shown in the alt is an old monastery converted into an acid mining facility. Sunbay Canyon is a world of diamonds named Midnight, where the sun radiated the surface to make it uninhabitable. However, it was a tourist attraction for how pretty it was by lowering buildings and tourist attractions from space onto it so oxygen remained inside of the buildings. Sundown Pass, as the flavor text implies, is when the sun expands and destroys the Earth, and is the first place the Ninth Doctor takes his new companion Rose after meeting her. Temple Enlightenment is just a hospital from New York. Temple of Epiphany is also self-explanatory with the flavor text. It shows the Temple of Atropos that are protected by a guardian priest named the Maori. Temple of Triumph is the Delirium Archive, which is a museum on an asteroid with the box being a home box that's kind of like a black box from a plane that gets ejected when something goes wrong with the starliners they were on. Temple of the False God, as the flavor text implies, is the temple for Akaten, which is a parasitic entity, the sun you see in the background, that fed on the sun singer's Avakat's soul, pretending to be their god, hence why they're a false god. Thespian Stage is quite literal, showing a Shakespearean play in progress, where the 10th Doctor takes Martha Jones to 16th century London where they meet Shakespeare. Thriving Bluff is from the Beast Below episode, where the United Kingdom is escaping a dying Earth on a ship, but that ship is actually the back of a space roll that's being tortured. Though this fact is hidden, hence the city is thriving, but the people are being lied about the circumstances of it. Trenzalore Clock Tower is a tower on the planet Trenzalore. The energy coming out of it is the Doctor's regenerations being restored, has seen as well regenerations restored. Rome Room is quite literally a war room, being the one Winston Churchill used during a Dalek invasion where he talked with the Doctor. I'm not really going to go over any of the plane chase cards here because, well, most of them are just locations and self-explanatory. The only one really worth talking about is Human Time Lord Meta Crisis, which shows the moment Donna Noble touched the Doctor's hand, which caused her to absorb all the Time Lord energy in it, and it would kill her if all that energy remained inside of her. Woo! We finally made it to the end. I'm not sure if I'll do this for the other decks because I am a lot less familiar with the Doctors and Errors outside of this one, but if that's something you want to see, do let me know in the comments below, and I'll do just that. And also make sure you comment, like the video, and subscribe while you're down there too. I have been JPEG, thank you for watching.